We are here with Travis Breeding. He is 27 years old, on the autism spectrum, and an author. So thrilled to have you here with us, Travis. I know that you have several books, but a new book called The Reality of Living Within Two Worlds. And we're going to let people at home know how to get that book in just a minute. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit about when and how you were diagnosed and what you were diagnosed with.
Okay. Basically, I was diagnosed. It was October of 2007. I was 22, and I'm very high functioning, so I kind of the typical slip by. The schools are looking for the academic stuff. They're not really looking for the social impairment so much, or at least in the past they weren't. And so I kind of went through school undiagnosed, and my trouble really started when I went to college and attempted school. And people with Asperger's are typically what I call late bloomers. And so I didn't really show the interest in the social interaction and friendship until, I was in college, and I wanted that. And then I didn't have the social skills to connect with people. And so I started seeking out counseling for that. And that eventually led to an Asperger's diagnosis. But as you probably are all too familiar with, it also before the Asperger's led to bipolar and schizophrenia and all sorts of other fun things, ADHD as well.
So when you were a teenager, what kinds of difficulties did you have, or were you totally fine then, and it was just that the social component of going to college is when you noticed, or were there things going on when you were a teenager?
I mean, there were things going on when I was a teenager. I noticed that I was different and couldn't connect with people like other people were connecting. But there was a couple things in place that were really helpful and kind of let me get through school without having any real issues. And that one would be what I call one is a special interest. I was in music. I was in band and show choir and all those things, backup band. And so I played trombone, and the trombone was like a special interest. So I would come home and just practice that 8 hours a night, and that really, I was absorbed in that special interest. And so I wasn't really, the other stuff wasn't noticeable. And then the other thing that was going on is when you're in those groups like that, you're in the marching band, the show choir, you have I don't know if you're familiar with Tony Atwood.
Yes.
But you have what's called, he refers to it as associates, to where I was with kids hanging out by design because I was in that group. So it was kind of like having kids to practice with, but I wasn't really friends with them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So do you feel like that as a teenager you had any friends instead of associates?
Honestly, when I look back on it, I don't. Just because, I had a lot of situations where, I thought I had friends because I would end up, it was you can go to Taco Bell with us after the game if you buy all of our meals type of thing, or that type of thing. And you're probably familiar, you probably are very aware of that stuff that happens.
Yeah, we call that bullying.
Yeah, it's getting taken advantage of, bullying, that type of thing. So I actually didn't have, I've honestly never really had, it wasn't until recently, honestly, I've never really had what I would call a real best friend. I had a friend in school until 5th grade, but then he moved to Iowa in 5th grade. But it wasn't until, and I've been through some cases where I thought I was getting into a friendship, but honestly, I haven't really had what I would call a real true friend until this past summer. And I really met someone who's a really good best friend, and we, it's very helpful. I think as I get older too, the people I'm trying to be friends with are a little older, so she's more mature. She gets the autism a little bit, and so it's helpful to have that. And it's really helpful. And that's the thing that I don't think people understand is it's helpful to have that one friend, or somebody that you can kind of, lean on, and someone who kind of cares.
Yeah.
It's very important to have someone in your life like that.
Absolutely. We all want that. It's important for everyone. And so talk to us a little bit about this new, because you've written several books. This is your 7th book, but the new one is called The Reality of Living Within Two Worlds. And if somebody gets this book, what kinds of things are they going to find, Travis?
You're going to find a lot about, it's typical for people with autism. I often find that I myself even create a make-believe world, sometimes imaginary world, so to speak, escape into imagination. And it's when you're feeling overwhelmed, socially, I just use like the make-believe world as kind of an scapegoat. You get into your own world and you kind of imagine things, and you kind of, and I call it balancing act between two worlds, because you're trying to live in the real world that you really don't understand, but then you're also creating this make-believe world. And the thing about the make-believe world is nice is because as someone with autism, like when I create the make-believe world, I have complete control over what's going on in that world because I make it up. And so it's also a very helpful coping mechanism in some cases, because it can help you get through some rough times. But it can also be a dangerous place, so to speak, because if you stay there too long, you don't want to get too far away from reality, living in the real world, that type of situation.
Yeah.
And it's very important. It's also I find the autism mind to be so unique, because, and I talk about this in the book, but when I'm in that make-believe world and I create that make-believe world, it's like I'm creating a make-believe world to help me cope with situations in the real world. But then it's like my one friend, my friend, like my real friend, they become like my only tie and connection to the real world then. And so like I'm kind of trying to balance that, and it's just like a balancing act trying to figure everything out. And it's also, there's this myth about people with autism or Asperger syndrome. Like I hear all the time, it's like people with Asperger syndrome do not lie. And it's true. It's very true, actually. But if you think about it, like I have parents ask me a lot, why does my child tell me they flushed the toilet when I look and they obviously haven't flushed the toilet? Like, why are they lying about silly things like that? It's because they often struggle with that conflict of explaining things and why didn't they do this? Why didn't they do that? And so if you think about it, if you create a make-believe world in your mind thinking, you tell yourself that you did this so you don't have to explain it, so to speak, you start, and what if you believe your own make-believe world, then are you really telling a lie?
Interesting. Very interesting. And Travis, where can we get this book?
You can find that book on Amazon and also CreateSpace. Or you can add me. I have a Facebook, and I have all the links on there as well. So.
Okay. And your website is travisbreeding.com. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And so you've got a wealth of information there and more about all of the books that you have authored on travisbreeding.com.
Yes.
Okay, great. We're going to take a break, but Travis, I'm going to ask you to stay with us. Do you mind staying with us for one more segment?
Oh, not at all. That'd
okay. So we're going to take a break and come back and talk more with Travis after these messages. Our special guest right now is Travis Breeding. He is a young man on the autism spectrum with an Asperger's diagnosis, which he didn't receive until he was 22 years old. So Travis, I want to welcome you back to Autism Live. And I really am very interested in this, that you were progressing through your life and having, you said before, having difficulties from time to time with different social issues. What led you at the age of 22 to go and seek out a diagnosis?
I just knew that I could see, and that's the thing about, there's also a myth in the autism community from some people that, I can't tell you how many times I've heard, you're so high functioning, you should consider yourself lucky because you're so high functioning. But the problem with being high functioning is that you're also very aware of what's going on, and you can see the differences socially. And so I could constantly tell that there was like a higher level of connection that other people were establishing with each other that I really wanted to access, but I didn't know how. And so I was having problems with my friendships because I'm someone who's very, I guess people call it clingy, and that kind of thing. And I don't understand how to, I like my friend, I text a lot, every day. And so I don't understand the concept of playing hard to get, so to speak, and not, and so I was having problems with that, and people were complaining, and that type of thing, which, I wanted to find out what was going on, basically find out what was wrong with me. So I sought out counseling for that, as well.
And so at some point, though, they said to you, we want to look at you for this thing called Asperger's. Were you already aware of what Asperger's was? Was it something that was on your radar?
No, honestly, and in fact, and it's amazing how far my life has come in the 5 years since I've been diagnosed. I mean, obviously, I had heard of autism. I didn't really know about it, but I hadn't even heard of Asperger's at the time. So, which is kind of interesting and ironic because I think starting within the next year or so, Asperger's isn't going to be in the DSM anymore.
Right, absolutely. And So you, at some point, you went into some sort of appointment and they said you have Asperger's. What did that feel like for you?
It was really, I mean, it was kind of, I don't know. I didn't really feel much at first because I didn't know what it was. And then I started researching. And honestly, the first book I read, we talked about him a little bit earlier, The Complete Guide to Asperger Syndrome,
Yeah.
By Tony Atwood. And that book is just phenomenal. That's the first book I read, and it really helped me understand myself and what's going on. And then I just started researching it, putting pieces of the puzzle together. And it's really, the key to life with Asperger's or with autism really is to not, and what I found is to not try and compare yourself to other people and other friendships. For example, sometimes I see like a friend and they're interacting with a different friend a different way, and I think that I should be interacting with them in that same way. But our friendship is different. And so what we're talking about there is that I have a book out called Social Thinking and it's about autism and social thinking in context. And what's different is there between each friendship, there's different context. And so you might have a friend who's doing something with another friend that you see, and you think you want to be doing that same thing, doing the same stuff with them. But your friendship doesn't have the same context as theirs.
Yeah, and it's really difficult to understand those contexts.
It is. And it's very, I mean, just kind of an example. Sometimes, like, if I see a friend and another person comes up and they hug them, like, pick them up and, like, twirl them around a little bit. I don't know if you've ever seen that. But, like,
yes.
So little things like that. But, like, then I think to myself in my head, it's like, I've never done that with my friend. Why haven't I ever done that with my friend? But really, when it comes down to it, like, and what I've learned recently is that it doesn't matter, because that's their friendship and that's their context that they have, and our friendship and our context that we have is totally different. And so that's honestly helped me a lot, is understanding that context as well.
Well, really important things that you're saying, and I love hearing them. So often we hear these things from somebody who doesn't have a diagnosis, isn't on the spectrum, and it really, it makes it hard to understand. And so it's so wonderful and refreshing to hear from you what it's like for you, Travis. So I really appreciate that. And my last question for you is, so you're 27 years old. What lies ahead for you? What are your goals? What are you working towards right now?
Honestly, my goals are to make a career out of writing and speaking, being on the speaking circuit, talking about autism, that type of thing, because I really want people with autism to understand one thing, and at least, there are different opinions and different viewpoints, but from my perspective, a cure isn't really something that I'm interested in or necessarily after. The one word that I really want people with autism to find is hope. And for me, like, finding hope was in finding a true friendship with someone. And once I had that true friendship, it's just like, it makes your whole life kind of flow better, I guess. Just your world makes more sense. And so I've been able to focus more on writing and doing stuff like this. And my goal is to be able to, make a career out of helping others and give others hope about autism as well.
Well, I think that's amazing, Travis, and I think that you are amazing. We want to remind everybody that they can go to www.travisbreeding.com, breeding with 2 E's.com, and that they can also buy your books on is it CreateSpace, you said?
Yeah, CreateSpace or Amazon.
On Amazon. So again, Travis Breeding. And Travis, thank you so much for being with us, and we hope that you will stop back some other time and let us know other things that are going on with you. Will you do that?
Definitely.
Okay. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.